And so, my dear ones, here we are on this wonderful Sunday, and all is well with us. There's not a bother in any one of us in this moment right here and right now, and we're always in the moment right here and right now. The last words we sang were, I surrender, I am peace. And so as we allow that to sink deep within us, we remember our brothers and sisters in France, in Paris, who have undergone such shock and loss. And we are with them, one in mind, one in heart, one in prayerful thought. And of course, we bless those who have gone on their way, soaring into a new and wonderful expression of life and living. But they have left a gap, they have left a deep hole in people's lives. And we remember them now, and we know for them that this too is passing, and that their grief will dissipate itself, and their wound will heal, and life somehow or another will be the better for this experience. How, we don't know. Understand it, we can't. But that's what we're knowing. And so what the call is here when we see these kinds of things happening, and it's interesting because when they happen in England, or when they happen in France, or when they happen in Greece, it seems to be much more vivid in our minds and in our consciousness. But I have to remind us all that these things are happening all over the world for many families every single day in war-torn places. This is happening. People are dying like this all the time, all the time, all the time. But this brings it home to us because it seems to be closer to us, but it's no closer than if it were to happen, in another galaxy. It's always part of what is going on in our own experience, whatever happens anywhere else, because we are everywhere else too. And so the call for you and for me now is, as we think in terms of expecting a miracle, the call is that you and I can be a miracle of sorts. You and I stand before these experiences and we say, I will not be afraid. I will not be frightened. I am not scared. This does not disturb me off of my poise, because I know there's a power stronger than all of that. And it's not just in the universe, it's in me. And it's calling me now to do what I can do in this situation, because too often we have sat around and said, there's nothing I can do. How many times have we said, well, what can I do? It's hopeless. I'm just one person. I can't do much of anything. Au contraire. What I can do, what you can do, what the call is for us to deeply more move into being the channel of peace that you and I are created to be, so that in that peaceful state, the blessing that goes out from us is like a pebble cast into the water that keeps reverbing and reverbing and reverbing and reaching out very far afield. So the call, the challenge is, what is my part in this? Because I have a part in this. This impacts me as much as it impacts the people who have gone on before and the people who are left behind suffering the losses. I'm just as impacted as they are in this way, that I am called directly now to be, as Gandhi said, the peace in the world that the world needs and that the world needs now. So that means that I must go into that commitment within myself to add to the peace vibration in the world, to be part of the peace vibration that is being called for now in the world, that uplifts, that unifies, that unites, that blesses, the energy of that peaceful blessing, the energy of that poise, the energy of that serene equanimity that will not be disturbed and will not be scared and will not go into fear and will not be afraid. That's what you and I are called to now, if ever we were called to it at any time. We are going to be called to it more and more and more and more and more as this world in its transitional state, and it is in a transitional state, moves into the transition that we desire, and not what the naysayers and the doomy and gloomy prophets suggest where we are going. We are not going there. We don't have to go there, and we will not go there, because we know it only takes the quantum number of us to reach that stage of poison equanimity for one day all of life to wake up on this plane and be serene and produce the planet of serenity that this was meant to be. That is the call, and you and I are directly engaged and involved in it. So that is the miracle of you. That is the miracle of me. So we don't expect a miracle. We live the miracle. There are no miracles to expect. There are only miracles to live. And if there is a miracle, because scientifically speaking, metaphysically, scientifically speaking, there are no miracles. There just are natural super happenings when you and I are so aligned and get ourselves in that state of being available to spirit and allowing spirit's availability to absolutely align us in that state and awareness that we are our best selves now, regardless of circumstances and what's going on in our lives, and that whatever it is we put our focus on is only that which we will experience, and whatever we take our focus off will cease to be. It's quantum physics 101. What you observe exists. What you do not observe doesn't exist. That's the way quantum physics works. It's pure metaphysics too. What I am focused on, what I'm engaged with, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm allowing myself to picture and see is going to be an experience in my life. And what I'm not focused on, what I don't think about, what I don't feel about, what I'm not engaged in, does not exist. Everything exists in potential. What brings it into being is my observation of it. None of this is real. I'm not real. All of it would be millions and bazillions of little tiny particles that are in motion, in flux. I'm a wave of possibility, and so are you, and so is this. When I'm out of this room and I'm not thinking about that, that doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. I was just saying this morning to somebody, all the furniture at home in my house doesn't exist when I'm not in it. All of that stuff becomes waves of energy, waves of particles. And then when I go home and I expect it all to happen, suddenly I open the door and it all appears. I love that. I love knowing that. So what does that say to you and to me as far as the mental life that we are living? That if it's not in my mind, it's not in my life, it's not in my existence. If it's not in my mind, it's not in my life, it's not in my existence. If it's in my mind, it's in my life, and it's in my existence. This works for diseases of all kinds. If it's not in my mind, it's not in my life. If I'm not observing it, if I'm not recognizing it, if I'm not giving it credence through the way I'm thinking about it and feeling about it, it doesn't exist, it diminishes itself, it cannot be. Quantum Physics 101. So, when are you going to wake up? When am I going to wake up? When are we going to understand this sufficiently to begin to change patterns that we have been entertaining that do not work for us in the way we think, in the way we feel, in the way we choose, in the way we decide, in the way we do? Miracles. There are none. Insofar as a miracle does just suddenly float by one day and then decide to pause over me and become a miracle in my life. The miracles don't float from outside there at all. If it is a miracle, it's right here where I am. It happens right here where I am, and it comes out of what I am in truth. That's how miracles happen. One miracle, it's life. And you are life, and I am life, which makes us a miracle. The miracle, if you want to see it as that, is that you and I got birthed out of all of the bazillions of possibilities. We got in. We made it. It's our biggest victory. We can't top it. There's no way you and I will ever top this. This is our greatest achievement. That something observed us at one time, the infinite thing itself. And because it did, here we are. And we get to do exactly as the infinite does. We get to observe too. We get to focus too. That's how we create. And then when we take our observance away, that's how we get to dissipate. Same as life itself. So the miracle is you and I wakening up to this. Now, I love the word miracle. I'm not going to let it go. I love it. I like it. Miracle, it's a good word. There's even a movie called Miss Miracle. It's a Christmas movie. She's kind of female Santa Claus, makes things happen for the good. And you know, the reason why we have the myth of a Santa Claus is because there is that desire within each and every one of us to demonstrate the truth of our being and who we are and what we are and how we can be the givingness of life back onto itself in every good way. That's why it's within us. Each and every one of us has that within us. Something in us that always wants to make a difference, wave a magic wand, be the difference that is required in any situation to make it better, to make it better, to make it better. And so your job and my job is, how can I make life better? And I do that by being better in myself. It's the only way I can do it. I have to be better in myself to make anything better. And so when it comes to this life that I am living and your life that you are living, when it comes to this body that I have observed enough to bring it into being, and taking good care of it, I'm back to myself again. I have to come back home to myself again and see how that can happen. I have to know there's something bigger and greater in me than any condition that could ever come my way. And that bigger and greater thing can dissipate the condition when I, as an egoic human reasoning thing, gets out of the way of it and allows it to be what it is. Infinite intelligence, knowing itself as infinite intelligence in a field of intelligence, conducting itself intelligently. Now, I'll always be infinite intelligence in a field of intelligence, but I'm not always conducting myself intelligently, and that's what creates my conditions. And so we come back to knowing that it is given to you and it is given to me to be everything that we are created to be and everything that we are created as. Infinite intelligence, infinite possibility. Everything is possibility. Everything is possibility. You and I will always be infinite possibility. And we'll always be materializing something. We'll always be creating something, but we want that something that we are materializing and creating to be good and very good, and for the good, and everyone's good, and all good. That's what we want deep down within us. At the core of our being, that's what we want. And that's why it doesn't matter how successful we are, no matter how many good things we accumulate, it doesn't matter a whit. We'll never be satisfied until we are the best of ourselves and the truth of ourselves. And that is why Augustine said many, many moons ago, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts cannot find rest until they rest in thee." Profound statement. You have made us for yourself, O law, Lord is law, and our hearts, our consciousness cannot rest until they rest in this awareness. Pure metaphysics. And so, my dear ones, we look and we see those who have done this, are doing this, and who are succeeding at this, and who have put this. Now, what you and I don't need any more of is great ideas and great concepts and lovely thoughts. We want the proof of that showing up in our lives. We want the experience of it showing up in our lives. I don't need to tell any one of you anything more about God or whatever else, because you've already come to your conclusions on that score. What you and I want is the experience of what this thing called God is, this thing called life is, this thing called infinite intelligence is, and we want that experience in our own lives. It's not enough for me to see it in your life, and in your life, and their life, and those lives out there. I want to see it. I want to experience it. I want to express it. I want to feel it in this life. Because until I do, none of that means much, if anything, to me. But there's a way for me to do that, and I've got to follow the way. In the beginning, the disciples of the master teacher Jesus, who was a master teacher of truth, they were known as the disciples of the way. That's what they were called. Remember, none of them knew they were Christians. They were called disciples of the way, of the way. The way of what? The way of truth, which was translated as the way of divine love, which is unconditioned and unconditional. Mother of goodness, find me any one person on this plane who can live that life, and this plane is saved. Unconditioned and unconditional love. That's the miracle. You just see it all over the place. You see people who are standing in their poise. You see people who are standing in their equanimity. You see people who are standing in equilibrium. You see people who know what they know, and they're not going to know anything else. Like the woman who fell down the stairs and crippled herself badly. Grandmother. Doctor came, said, "You'll never walk again." She pointed to the door, she said, "Go." Another doctor came in, looked at her and said, it's not looking so very good. Maybe you'll walk, maybe you won't walk. You just have to be willing to open yourself to that possibility. She pointed to the door, she said, "Go." Third doctor came in. He said, "Okay." He said, "You have a possibility, of course. You could be walking in 6 months, but it's going to take a great deal of convalescence and a great deal of your, putting everything you have, your strength into it and your whole heart into it, and yes, that could happen." So he was the doctor that remained. She said, "Good, because I was planning to go to New Hampshire next week to be with my grandson, so I'm going." By the end of the 6 months, she had gotten rid of her damn crutches, and she was walking again. Because nobody was going to tell her what was going to happen for her except herself. And she knew there was something that was in her greater than herself that could help her and assist her in knowing what she knew to be the truth, and she proved the truth in her life. There was another doctor at 50 years of age. He was crippled with arthritis, and he had a very bad and dangerous heart condition at 50. But something came to him, like the prodigal son. He came to himself. Something came to himself, and he realized that he had to do something about this. And so he came up with the idea, which Robert Frost told us about last week. You remember your first 5 minutes in the morning thinking about, making up your bed and making up your mind. And as you were making up your bed and increasing it and straightening it out and smoothing it out, you were doing the same thing with your mind. Well, he decided that if, when he first woke up, he just straight away thought about what was good and whole and wholesome and what he wanted in his life, that would probably help a great deal. So as soon as he woke up, he would go straight into an affirmation. He would tell himself, I am the health, I am the wholeness, I am the energy, I am the integration and the unification and the alignment of the power that created me, and I am that now. And every cell of my body knows nothing of sickness, knows nothing of ailment. Every cell of my body is the infinite life of the Creator itself. And every cell of my body is supporting my life and my bodily being. And I know myself to be healthy. I know myself to be youthful. I know myself to be energetic. I know myself to be strength. And so I'm open now in this day to going forward now, feeling this, allowing this, identifying with this, and knowing this. And he did this, and he did this, and he did this. So that at 82 years of age, hale and hearty, as young and as able and as all energetic as get up, because that's what turned his life around. He allowed nothing that he wanted to create in his life enter into his head, and he only allowed entering into his head. See, I'm pointing to the head. Of course, there's as much intelligence and brain and mind in this little finger as there is in my brain, but however, this is what we're used to doing. So he allowed nothing that he didn't want to experience enter his consciousness, and he allowed only that which he wanted to experience enter into his consciousness, and lo and behold, it worked. He was an experiment in himself. His own mind was his own laboratory, and in his own laboratory he experimented and found proof that that which was in him greater than he was could indeed support and assist him in what he wanted to experience and realize. And another doctor who had retired, she was asked, what is the secret of your great beauty and your youth? And she just said, they said, they were talking, the topic was on aging and so on. And they said, you are so incredibly, stunningly beautiful. And, you don't seem to have aged or grown old. And she said, I've never considered growing old, but I've always considered growing. And when I'm not growing, then I'm old. It doesn't matter what age I am. If I'm not growing, I'm old, regardless of my age. I've never thought about growing old. I've only thought about growing, and my emphasis was on growing. So I would say to us all today, grow along with me, the best is yet to be. Grow along with me, the best is yet. I left out a word, of course, but that was intentional. Grow along with me, the best is. Why? Because there's always more of this infinite possibility that you are, that I am, ready to express itself by means of you and by means of me in a fuller and deeper and higher, a wider, bigger way. Why wouldn't I want that? Why wouldn't I embrace that? Why wouldn't I support it and assist it and do what it takes to get the proof that I want about the life that I am and the life that wants to live itself through me in this big, huge way? Why wouldn't I want that? And why wouldn't you? And why, therefore, would we only not think about all of those things that we think endanger us, harm us, and cause us all kinds of grief and aggravation? Why are we taking all of this stuff that goes on out there so very personally? Why are we focused on any of that at all when really and truly the divine is totally focused on me, on you, and is waiting us to totally focus ourselves back at it? And then, wow, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum-bum. Oh, that's the way it works. And then we'll never be the same again. Never ever will we be the same again. We'll have gone on to another level of expression. And guess what? Having done that, we will have taken all of life up with us, because that's the way consciousness works. That's the way energy works. That's the way potential works. I'm not going to go down without company, and I'm certainly not going to go up without company either. I don't know about you, but I want to keep pressing the button in the elevator that says up, 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 up. And you can do it and I can do it. Yes, exactly as we are. It doesn't matter how broken we think we are, how messed up we think we are, how sick we think we are, how not enough we think we are, how victimized we think we are. That doesn't matter a whit. If I take my observation off it, it goes away. It dissipates itself. And if I put my observation on the life I want to live, on the person I want to be, on the essence I want to show up as, that is what's going to happen. And so, my dear ones, that's why we're in spiritual community together, because we're here to remind each other when we forget who we are, what we are, and whose we are. We're here to remember. We sang this morning, I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, and you are here to remind me of mine. Is that what we're doing in our conversations? Is that what we're doing in our heads and our minds as we're thinking about each other? Is that what we're doing when we come together and meet and greet each other? Is it? Because if it was, often enough, at least 51% of the time, we, all of us in this room, could walk on water. And being able to do so, we take the boat because it'd be more fun. So what's it going to be? You and I are called today to remind ourselves that I am the peace that passes understanding on this plane. God, help us all. I am the peace that passes understanding on this plane. There is no other peace to be had except through you, through me. There is no good to be had except through you and through me. There is no love to be had except through you and through me. There is no giving taking place except through you and through me. That's how much the divine thought of us when we were created. Knew we could do it, be it, because we were it. Now, are we on for this week to be the best week of our lives to date? Yes. Are we on to respond to the call to be the peace that the world needs now? Yes. Are we ready to think it? Yes. To feel it? Yes. To act as it is so? Yes. And to be all that we can be? Yes. Well, so it is.